Welcome to this online mentoring session of Paper-4 Taxation. I am Shefali Jain. I am a faculty for Indirect Taxes at Board of Studies.
Good afternoon, students. I am Aparna Chauhan, a faculty of Direct Taxes at Board of Studies.
We both are your mentors for today's session. Today's session is a joint session for Part 1 Income Tax and Part 2 Indirect Taxes of Paper-4 Taxation. Taxation has a great significance in every economy. In a welfare state like India, it is the prime responsibility of the government to cater or to fulfill the responsibilities, that is, for example, the developmental needs of the country, to fulfill the developmental needs of country and its people. Now, how this is done? This is done by way of public expenditure. And from where do you get the funds for this public expenditure? The prime source of government's revenue is the tax revenue. Tax revenue, when I say tax revenue, it comprises of both direct taxes and indirect taxes. While on one hand, the indirect tax, the burden of direct tax cannot be shifted by the taxpayer to someone else, the burden of indirect tax is shifted by the taxpayer to the consumers, to the ultimate consumer, who finally consumes the product or who consumes the service. So both direct and indirect taxes are limbs of taxation. Not only the subject, these two subjects are closely knitted with each other, but their study is also closely related, closely linked to each other. Once we understand the provisions of one of the tax laws, once we understand how to interpret the one of the tax laws, it will become automatically very easier for us to understand and interpret the provisions of the other tax law. Okay. So that is why, in fact, we came up with the idea of holding a joint mentoring session of Part 1 Income Tax and Part 2 Indirect Taxes today. And here we'll give you a comprehensive plan to approach the two parts together. Okay. In fact, by this time, I'm very sure that most of you must have started your studies. In fact, your studies would have been going at a full pace. And even for those students who are lagging behind, or who are yet to start your studies, I would say, do not lose heart, do not lose hope. You still have time to catch up. Only thing that is required is that you need to gear up yourself. Don't lose a single more day. Don't waste a single more day now. Stop regretting for the time which you have lost. At times, such type of apprehensions, they tend to surround us. Like, I have already wasted a lot of time. Now, do I have sufficient time to cover the entire syllabus? What if I'm not able to cover the entire syllabus? How will I perform an exam? Will I be able to clear now? I have wasted so much time. I could have done better. Lot many things come to one's mind, and sometimes you get stuck up in these things and we don't move forward. So what you need to do is you need to take out all these apprehensions from your mind and you need to study now. Okay? What you need to think, only thing you need to think now is that whatever time is left with you, you have to give your 100% to that time. Okay? Your devotion, your dedication, and your hard work can lead to success. And that is what is required from you at this time. Okay, so start studying from today itself. Don't wait for tomorrow also. Don't think that, yes, today I am feeling very motivated. From tomorrow I will start studying. No. You have to say today itself I will start studying, because each day which I am wasting or I am losing today, I will definitely regret later that why I wasted that day today, because those few hours could have led me to certain topic. I could have learned some topic in that time, so that you will regret later on. So start your studies today itself. In fact, you should, sometimes we plan a lot, but we tend to fail to execute that. So you need to plan also judiciously. Okay, so start your studies from today itself.
Yeah, of course, obviously you have to plan here. The students, say you have, as of now, 5 months for appearing in November exams. You have sufficient time. Don't demotivate it. You can plan your study very well, and you can prepare for the examination very well. But the thing is, as ma'am said, that you have to study from the day itself, from today onwards. For that, you must all be aware that for cracking any exam, what you require exactly, that you should have a study plan for that syllabus, for that subject. In that, you should allocate a proper time for each topic, depending on its volume. But keep in mind that only making a plan will not be helping you. Planning without execution is futile. It will not have any use. It is just a wastage of time. So don't waste on your time on planning. What you have to do, you have to execute it. You have to adhere with the timelines as you have defined therein, specified therein. So don't postpone your plans to the next day or the tomorrow, as you all know that tomorrow never comes. It's a well saying that कल 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 करे सो आज करे सो अब, पल में प्रलय होएगी तो बुरी करेगा कब. So be strict to that. Your plans, do start your study, execute in the same manner. For the students, it's a very general perception that CA curriculum, CA course is a very difficult course. See, it is difficult, but it is not impossible. There are certain well settled things that there are students who crack their exams and score very well just by following the strategies they adapted. They plan their study very well and they execute them in an effective manner. Here in this session, we are going to take you through the strategies which you require to adapt for preparation of this subject. See, this subject, the taxation subject, is a very scoring paper. You can score a very good marks. Here, it is a practical oriented subject, and there are computation based problems are also there. So step-wise marking is there. So you can get a good marks by preparing in the specified manner. Further, we generally receive so many queries on this subject that which finance act will be applicable, what are the BOS publications are relevant for the particular exam, what are the how to prepare for these studies, how to manage the times during the examination, how we will prepare one day before the examination. So in this session, we are going to take all these such kinds of queries. Now, I think we should move to our session.
Before we move to PPT, I would like to add that we have received our queries both through online forms as well as you may also ask your queries through Google Hangout. Okay, so those queries which we have received through online forms, that we have collated in PowerPoint presentation. And during the course of session, as we take the online form queries, you can also ask your queries through Google Hangout. Now we can move to PPTs. Students may note the disclaimer statement. Students are advised to refer to the study material, including supplementary study material if any, and other relevant legislation for latest provisions or amendments required for forthcoming examination. Now, the first query which we have received through online form is whether there is any change in the syllabus of Paper-4 taxation in November 2016 examination vis-a-vis May 2016 examination. Or another second question is, what is the applicable Finance Act for November 2016 examination? Now, first is change in syllabus. Now, this is one of the most frequently asked query and one of the most prevalent confusion among the students, that whether there is a change in syllabus in the current attempt or not. So first thing which I would like to tell them, that there is no change in syllabus in every consecutive attempt. The syllabus does not change in each consecutive attempt. What changes is the applicability of the Finance Act and the relevant notifications and circulars. So in the syllabus which was there in May 2016 examination, which was there in November 15 examination, the same syllabus is going to be there. The same syllabus is going to be applicable for November 2016 examination also. Syllabus is not going to change. Okay, so all of you must be clear with this point. So what is going to change in each consecutive attempt is the applicability of the notifications and circulars. In fact, Finance Act applicability also changes, but Finance Act, once it becomes applicable for a particular attempt, it remains applicable for 2 consecutive attempts. While as regards the notifications and circulars are concerned, they become applicable. Their applicability in fact changes in each consecutive attempt. Why this so happens? Because the Finance Act of a particular year, it gets applicable in the next year's 2 attempts. For example, Finance Act 2015 is applicable for May 2016 examination and November 2016 examination. The Finance Act was passed last year. It became applicable this year in 2 consecutive attempts. While as regards notifications and circulars are concerned, whatever notifications and circulars have been issued 6 months prior to your examination, they become applicable for the relevant examination. Now, for example, May 16 examination is there. 6 months prior to May 16 examination, that means notifications and circulars issued till 31st October 2015 will be relevant for you. Similarly, for November 16 examination, the applicable or relevant notifications and circulars issued till 30th April 2016, 6 months prior to the examination. So you can see that in each consecutive attempt, the applicability of notifications and circulars is changing, but in 2 consecutive attempts of a particular year, the applicability of the Finance Act remains the same. Okay, because this is very important. Before starting your studies, you should be very clear with these things, that what all is applicable for you. In case you go through something which is not applicable for you, that is a big blunder which you can commit. Okay, now one thing I would like to tell you is that how this Finance Act is passed every year, or how we make changes, or how the changes are made in the acts as well as in the rules. The Finance Act, which is passed every year, it makes changes in the act. Okay, whether it is the Income Tax Act, it is the Central Excise Act, Finance Act 1994 for Service Tax, Customs Act, all these acts are changed by the Finance Act. Every year in February, Union Budget is presented by the Finance Minister, wherein he proposes the Finance Bill. Through this Finance Bill, he proposes changes in the various acts, various tax laws. And this budget or this Finance Bill is discussed at length in both the houses of the Parliament. When it gets passed in both the houses of the Parliament, it is sent to the President for his assent. And after President assent, the bill becomes Act. So Finance Bill becomes Finance Act. This year also, the Finance Bill 2016 was proposed on 28th February. And last year of the February it was proposed, and then it received the President's assent on 14th May 2016, so it became an act. Okay, in a election year, generally you will see in an election year, the bill, this union budget, it is presented after the formation of the government, so it gets delayed a bit. So this is how this whole process takes place. So whenever a Finance Act changes the acts, the tax laws, so this Finance Act is made applicable in the next year. Similarly, notifications and circulars. What does notifications do? They make changes in the rules. So they can be passed at any time of the year. They can be passed round the year. The notifications can be issued round the year, and therefore these changes can be made at any time during the year. That is why 6 months cutoff has been taken, because any notification or any circular which has been issued 6 months prior to the examination, that will become applicable for that particular attempt.
Here, I would like to tell you that Finance Act 2016 has become an act on 14th of May this year, but this act is not applicable for November 16 examination. Don't confuse with that amendments made by the Finance Act 2016 examination. Since for November 16 examination, Finance Act 2015 is applicable, and it was also applicable for May 16 examination. Here, in the case of notification, why there is a need of notification arises? Do you know? You know that Finance Act every year once it passed, so amendments can be brought once in a year. But during the year, if there is a need of certain changes in the act which is not coming correctly in the act, there are certain hues and cries due to that provision of the act. So for making changes, for amending that provision, government had specified notification. Government delegate its power to the CBDT as well as to the CBEC. CBDT is the board, Central Board of Direct Taxes, and CBEC, Central Board of Excise and Custom for indirect taxes. So it gives powers to the CBEC as well as the CBDT and to the central government also to make the changes in the act by way of notifications. How the circular? See, circulars are clarificatory in nature. They don't have any mandatory effect. They are just clarifying the provisions of the law. So they will not form part of the act. They are not going, the circulars are not going to change, make any changes in the act itself. They are for the purpose of, basically for the purpose of board. So they have to follow that. But assessee also can take the benefit of those circulars. Now the question arises, what is the assessment year applicable for November 16 examination? Is applicable for November 16 examination in case of part 1 income tax as well as for part 2 indirect taxes. But in case of income tax, there is a significance of assessment year and the previous year. So you should be aware of what assessment year and what previous year is going to be asked in the exams. Assessment year here for 2016-17 is the assessment year for income tax for November 2016 examination. Since the amendments which are being brought for the assessment 2016-17 are come by way of Finance Act 2015. So the relevant assessment year 16-17. The assessment year does not have any role in case of indirect taxes. It is significant from the sake of income tax only. Now, as I said, that notification or circulars also, notification also brings certain amendments. So notification are also very significant for examination point of view since it amends the act itself. Circulars are clarificatory natures. They will also have an impact in case of certain interpretation issues are there. So circulars will clarify that those provisions. So what are the significant notifications applicable for November 16 examination? See, for November 16 examination, the notification and circulars issued up to 30th April 2016 are relevant. Right? After that notification, whatever being issued are not relevant for you. The notification circulars which are issued up to this time are relevant. So it is 30th April 2016, both in the case of part 1, that is income tax, and part 2, that is indirect taxes. Now, we generally receive queries. What are the BOS publications relevant for November 2016 examination? BOS Board of Studies publication. Every year, Board of Studies have its own publication. They keep on changing, specifically in the case of tax laws. Since amendments came into effect by the Finance Act every time with a notification, so they are keep on changing, updating. So it plays a very significant role that you must be aware of which publication is relevant for a particular examination. For November 16 examination, they are following. First, I will tell you that these are the following publications which the Board of Studies issue for taxation paper 4. There is a study material, there is a practice manual, there is a supplementary study paper, revision test paper. So what is the study material? What is the difference between practice manual? The study material basically covers the provisions of the act with the help of illustration and examples as well in a tabular form. It generally contains the provision of the law for the understanding of the provisions of law for both direct and indirect taxes. So which edition is relevant for you? See, the September 2015 edition is relevant since it is applicable for both May exam, May 16, as well for November 16 exam. It is applicable for you. And it contains the amendments which are brought by the Finance Act 2015. So students, further it is advisable for you that you should prefer to purchase a new material. If you have the earlier edition, that is October 2014 edition, in case of October 2014 edition, then you should read the study material along with the supplementary study paper 2015, which explains the amendments which are being made by the Finance Act 2015 and the notification and circular issued up to 30th April 2015. Right? And in case of practice manual generally it contains the questions from the past examination, adapted and answered on the basis of provision of direct tax laws and indirect tax laws as amended by the Finance Act 2015. So these practical in the practice manual, it contains the practical questions, examples, and questions which are there in the past examination, which keep on changing with the changes made by the Finance Act 2015. So the new edition is relevant for you. That is October 2015 edition for Part 1 Income Tax. October 15. and September 2015 edition for Part 2 Indirect Taxes. There is a difference that in case of practice manual, September 15 edition is there for Part 2 and October 15 edition is there for Part 1. In case of study material, it is same edition, that is September 2015 edition. Here, I would like to tell you that there is a difference between the edition, revised edition, and reprint copy. So, in the reprint copy is just a print of the earlier edition. In the revised version, only we keep updating the provisions or the practical question. So, don't confuse with the reprint copy or the revised edition, because revised edition is more relevant for you. Then we have a supplementary study paper 2015. In supplementary study paper 2015, it explains the amendments made by the Finance Act 2015. The Finance Act is 2015 is relevant for you. So it covers the significant notifications and circulars issued by CBDT as well as CBEC between 1/5/2014 and 30/4/2015 up to. So it is especially relevant for those who have earlier edition of study material. In this supplementary study paper, the provision, the amended provision is explained with the help of picture, examples, and tabular form. Right. So it is very much essential that you should also go through the supplementary study paper along with the study material. Right. Then for the purpose of evaluation, at the end of your preparation for the examination, we are come with the revision test paper. Revision test paper every time comes separately for both examination for May 16 and for November 16. So for November 16, there is a separate edition which is not the same as in the May 16 examination. In RTP, we cover the notification which are not been covered here in supplementary study paper. Here in this, notification and circulars issued from 1/5/2015 to 30th April 2016. Since in study paper, in supplementary study paper, we covered up to 30th April 2015 only. So the notification which are issued comes thereafter are covered in this RTP, which is separate for both May 16 examination and November 16 examination, while the other publication are same for May 16 examination and November 16 examination. Now, where do we study the latest amendments relevant for November 16 examination? As I already told you that we are come to the supplementary study paper. It contains the amendments which are made by the Finance Act 2015. Further, the significant notifications, circulars issued between 1/5/2014 and 30/4/2015. Also, we have a revisionary test paper. Therein, we cover the notification and circulars issued between 1/5/2015 and 30/4/2016. So in both the publication, there are the notification and circulars in which are latest amendments are covered here.
In fact, I would like to add one point here is that in case you have the latest study material also, then also in that case you should refer the supplementary study paper and the amendments given in the revision test paper, because seeing the past few years papers, you also must have concluded that the amendments, they hold a very significant place in the question paper. Amendment based questions are generally preferred in the examinations, so you should also be very thorough in these amendments. And once you go through the supplementary study paper, you tend to remember these amendments. There is more focus on the amendments. You know what is the impact of a particular amendment, what is the reason why this amendment is brought, what is the exact change in that particular provision. Old position is also told to you, new position is also elaborated. So you get a complete elaboration or complete analysis of a particular amendment. So in study material, what you will find is you will find the latest position. But in supplementary study paper, you will find the complete analysis of a particular amendment, and that will certainly help you in remembering, in appreciating that particular amendment. And that is, you know, that amendment-based questions are definitely, they are preferred in the examination. They are very important from examination point of view. So all of you should focus on the amendments, and that you should read from supplementary study paper plus revision test papers.
Yes, here all the amendments, you will come to know that they are all the amendments which are relevant for the exam at one place.
At one place you will get them.
Now, for preparation of these exams, I had said you that you should prepare a study plan. So I will tell you that how you make that study plan for paper taxation, both in income tax and well as indirect taxes. Before making any study plan, it is very much essential that you must be aware of what is the destination. Here in this case, in a paper, it is your syllabus, that what you have to study and what is required from you, that you must be aware. This is expected level of knowledge. You must be aware that what is the requirement, what is the thing which the ICA requires from you, that your student must be aware of it up to that level. It is the expected level of knowledge. So you must know that this is your syllabus and expected knowledge. At IPCC subject 4, this is a working knowledge is required. It means they can ask you question you require to apply the provisions in a non-complex scenarios. First, according to your syllabus, you should make a study plan, right? And before proceeding ahead, it is very much essential in case of, especially in case of taxation paper, that you should know that what is the applicable Finance Act and what is the assessment year, specifically in case of Part 1 income tax, which assessment year is relevant. Draw up your study plan and allocate time for each topic of subject. I think in case of income tax, I will say that you cannot move to any topic which you think, yeah, I can do this thing. You have to go stepwise. For example, you must know that what is the assessment year, what is the previous year, basic things which are very much required from you. Then you will proceed with the determination of residential status. Since for income tax, residential status plays a very significant role. The taxability of certain income is based on the residential status of a person. So who are the persons? Who are the person who are liable to pay the tax? So you have to move a step forward. When you are aware of that, yeah, this is the residential status, how you determine the residential status, then you move ahead. That is the different heads of income. There in income tax, what is the charging section basically? In the charging section, which will tell you that where you will, the driver will drive you your bus. So charging section is the driver, which drive the whole of the act to a particular way in a direction. So charging section 4, section 5, there are which tell you the scope of total income, then what income should not be included herein, income which do not form part of total income, then the 5 heads of income. The income is divided into 5 heads of income, that is income from salaries, income from house property, the profits and gains from business or profession, capital gains, then income from other sources. So these are the 5 heads. Then there are provisions relating to the clubbing provision, that the income of certain person will be clubbed in the particular case to avoid the tax avoidance. Then set off and carry forward provisions, then deductions, then you compute the gross total income, then only the total income. So directly you cannot move to the total income thing. You have to study in a step-wise manner. First, when you are aware of all these provisions, all the chapters, all in the way you have to study, then you can draw up a study plan, and then you can allocate that how much time is required for a particular topic. In this paper, I will say that you should at least plan your whole study 3 times. Study whole the subject 3 times, 1 round of study and 2 rounds of revision before examination. But here, I will say, if agar aapki possible nahi ho pati 3 rounds pe, don't worry about it. There are the different calibers of the people that they can do well in a 2 rounds of study also. But ideal is that you should try to do your studies in 3 rounds. 2 rounds for revision purpose and 1 round is for clarity of understanding of the paper.
In fact, I would like to add here, the study plan cannot be, there cannot be any general study plan, or you cannot say a universal study plan which can be made for a particular paper for any subject. It is very individualistic. Every individual has his own pace, own understanding, own level of intelligence, aptitude, and depending on the availability of time also. Somebody starts studies very early, somebody is doing it at the last hour, somebody gets leaves very late. So everybody has to frame the study plan on your own. We can only give you a direction. We can only tell you the points which you need to remember while drawing the study plan. But it is you who can draw a study plan for yourself, and it is you who have to adhere to it, who has to stick to it. More important is that when you draw a study plan, it should not be very idealistic, that it is you are not able to adhere to it. You have kept so very less time for each of the topics and you are not able to complete it. So definitely it will discourage you, and it should not be very, you should not keep very long timelines so that you take so much time in completing first round that second round and third round are not possible. You have to be you have to judge that what is the exact or what is the correct time for first round of study. Definitely first round of study is going to take more time than the subsequent two rounds, but depending on the time which you have, depending on the chapters which you have to cover, you have to divide these chapters in the available time. Everybody will have different time available, everybody will take different time to cover these chapters, but you have to frame that, you have to draw that study plan depending on your particular ability and your available time, your constraints which are there, in which you are studying. So this you have to frame on your own, and definitely it is going to help you.
Further, you should adhere with the timelines, specified in the study plan. That is most important.
Because we tend to get divert, or you can say we tend to get away from our plans. We have to adhere to our study plan. So this is how you have to make a study plan. Now, sometimes it is asked that what should be the approach for effective self-study? Because in Chartered Accountancy course, self-study is the key. You have to study on your own, and how to attain the conceptual clarity while studying. And sometimes students are very confused about the practice manual also, that when should I start studying practice manual? Should I do it at the end of completing the whole syllabus, or what should be the correct approach of doing the practice manual? So this is what we are going to elaborate now. First of all, read each chapter of the study material thoroughly for conceptual clarity. Now this is how you have to proceed. Once you have framed, you have drawn up your study plan. In that study plan, you must have allocated specific time for each of the chapter of the study material. That's what Aparna told you, that how you have to move while making the study plan. You have to move sequentially in case of income tax. In fact, in case of indirect taxes also, if you see, for service tax portion, you have to move sequentially. But you can have a choice between service tax and the other taxes like customs, excise, VAT, CST. You can choose either of the tax laws, either of the indirect taxes, but once you choose a tax, you have to move sequentially, because then only you will be able to grasp the idea, you will be able to appreciate the laws or their sequence. So they have been placed in such a sequence that you have to follow that sequence only. Okay. So each chapter you have to read thoroughly. You have to understand the provisions of each of the chapters. While reading the chapter, what you should do is, you can use a highlighter. You can highlight the important points. Important points, when I say, it does not mean very short. It should be elaborate. But whichever point you find important, you highlight it. You try to mark it in whichever way you find it convenient. After completing one chapter, next step should be preparation of summaries. Now, what is the role of summaries? Summaries are very important for any, in fact, I would say summary can be for any subject. But for taxation paper, since we are telling you, it is important for taxation. Why? First, you will get a habit of writing the provisions in your own language when you write the summaries. Secondly, summaries should not be confused with the notes. You can prepare notes depending on the availability of time with you, depending on the efforts which you are putting in the subject. You can prepare notes also, but summaries are not notes. Notes are very elaborate. Notes are detailed. Notes is something after which you need not refer the book. You prepare notes. Once you prepare notes from your books, you need not go back to the book again, because you have made it a comprehensive. You have comprehensively covered the portions. But when I am saying summary should be very short. It should take very less time to revise. Second thing is, it should not cover everything. If you try to cover everything in summary and you feel that next time I will read only summary, then that will not serve the purpose. The purpose of summaries is that it should be very crisp, so that day before examination, when you don't have time to revise each and everything, then these summaries will come into role. Because unless and until you revise whatever you have learned, it is of no use. Whatever you learn so many things, but if you don't revise those things, then it will not serve any purpose in the exam. You will try to recall things, but you will not be able to. So once you revise those things, they will be there. They will be imprinted in your memory. So you should prepare some things and try to prepare. I'm not saying that you have to prepare it for each and every subject. It depends for every chapter. It depends on the availability of time again. But try to prepare it for as many chapters as possible. Now, once you have prepared these summaries, then after completing that particular chapter, particular topic of the study material thoroughly, then you move to practice manual. You work out the questions of the corresponding chapter from the practice manual. Now, what is the way of attempting the practice manual or doing the practice manual? That is this query which was asked has also been resolved, that practice manual should never be done after completing the whole syllabus. You will not be able to appreciate the provisions of each and every chapter. It should be done after each chapter. You have gone through the chapter, you have understood the provisions, now they are very fresh in your mind. You have prepared the summaries, so you have summarized them in your own language, and now you come to the questions. Solving the practice manual, the way of solving the practice manual is that you should try to attempt first of all questions on your own. You should not see the answer, you should not see the solution. Theory questions, due to paucity of time, you can just think in your mind that yes, this is the answer to this particular question. You may not write it also, depending on time. It's better to write, but if you don't have time, you just think in your mind, you can recall in your mind that yes, this is going to be the answer. This is how I'm going to frame my answer to this particular application-based or provision-based question. But in case of computational problems, it is very important you solve it. You solve it on a piece of paper, and then you compare the answer with the answer given in the practice manual. That will help you very effectively, because first of all, you will get into a habit. You will know how to present it. You will think of it that how I am going to present it. You have not seen the answer. Once you see the answer, you tend to get biased with the solution. You will not apply your own mind that yes, this could also be the, or sometimes there are alternate solutions also possible. So that will help you in understanding the provision better. You should not see the answer at the first instance. Try to solve the answer on your own. It will help you in presenting the answer. You will come to know that how I will be presenting such type of computational problems in exam. Then whatever mistakes you have made in the first time solving the question, while you are solving that particular question for the first time, that mistake you will remember forever, that you will not commit again. Because once you compare it with the answer, definitely you are going to remember it for a longer period of time, that yes, this mistake I am not going to commit. This is something which I had done wrong in the first instance. So always solve it on your own and then compare it with the solutions given.
Yeah, of course, practice makes a man perfect. So practice the questions. More and more you practice, you will be more perfect in it. So don't only read the question, because you will be overconfident. Yeah, I am aware of it. But where you will lack in that is, you will lack in the presentation thing. This is the main thing I must say that where the student lose their marks in the presentation of their answers. They are very much aware, very much familiar with the provision, but then they are not able to present their answer in the manner which the question requires, which you require to answer. So further that, yeah, of course you should make the summaries, but don't only dependent on the summaries. For understanding of the concept, you should go through the study material provision. Don't only, because what happened, we generally come to know that we have the key points before in the practice manual. What the student do, they just take the practice manual and start reading or understand the concept from the key points only, and try to solve the questions which are given in the practice manual. What happened, they are not aware of the exact what is the provision. They will not understand what exactly the provision is telling you. So you should, for better understanding of that concept, you should go through in detail. Don't it required a detailed study. It is not a selective study. So don't base all your whole studies based on your key points which are given in the practice manual. Key points and the summaries are for the purpose of revision, fast revision of your concept. At the time of the exam, before the examination, you will easily grab, or you will easily revise whole the syllabus in a less time. So it's better for you practice the questions which are given in the practice manual, and for understanding, if you are lacking there, then go to the concept in detail again.
Well said, Aparna. In fact, many students come to us where we find that their main problem is that they read the questions of practice manual. They say we have done practice manual twice, thrice, but when we ask them to solve a single question, they are not able to present it. That is the main point. You come to know the presentation part of the answer. And moreover, when you read the answer, you get biased. You tend to see the answer. You feel that yes, I know the answer. But when you attempt it without seeing the solution, you come to know how much actually you have gained. So that is very important point which you made.
वही होता है ना कि आप सोचते हो यार नहीं कोई बात नहीं, चलो इस बार नहीं, हमें आता तो था मतलब आता है तो you will, मतलब आपको ना ओवर कॉन्फिडेंट भी होगा, आप जब सॉल्व करोगे देन एग्जैक्टली यू विल कम टू नो.
और ये प्रॉब्लम स्टूडेंट्स को आती है. जो स्टूडेंट्स काउंसलिंग के आते हैं, बहुत बार ऐसा लगता है कि ये चीज अगर वो करते तो उनको बहुत अच्छा लगता. समरीज आल्सो, समरीज के लिए भी हम ये फील करते हैं कि whatever summaries we have given in the practice manual, that is for your reference, that is for your ease. लेकिन अगर आप समरीज खुद बनाओगे तो वो समरीज आपको याद नहीं करनी पड़ेगी, वो आपको याद होगी. आप पेजेस फ्लिप करोगे और वो आपको याद आती जाएंगी, क्योंकि आपने उनको करने से पहले इतनी मेहनत की है, इतना कुछ पढ़ा है कि वो अपनी लिखी हुई समरीज याद नहीं करनी पड़ती, वो याद होती है. So that is a very important point which you should remember, that these summaries are very important. Practice manual is very important. Don't take it lightly कि हो गया practice manual, एक बार बस pages flip करे और वो सब ठीक है, पढ़ के ही हो गया. नहीं, you have to solve it. You will see the difference on your own. If you are not able to pass in few attempts, then you will find this difference कि practice manual solve करने से आपके performance में actually में difference आएगा.
Try to follow that presentation, but of course it is not possible for you also that you present your answer in the same manner with the full details. Since we for the clarity or for
reference के लिए हम लोग बहुत चीजें ऐड करते हैं. Have to give it in a precise manner depending on the marks which the question carries. लेकिन presentation आपकी अच्छी होनी चाहिए. Presentation makes a difference in the paper.
Of course.
और यही process आपको अब सारे chapters के लिए repeat करनी. You have to repeat this process for each chapter. Read the concept, then make summary, then work out the practice manual, compare your answers, identify your mistakes. After this, your first round of study will be completed. Okay, and at the end of the first round, you are ready with summary of each chapter. You have undergone all the questions of the practice manual. Practice manual करते हुए एक और exercise आप कर सकते हैं, जो ये है कि you have to shortlist the questions where you find some important point. Suppose there are 40 questions in a chapter. And not all questions will have some or the other tricky point. Few questions will have some tricky points which you, by doing it on the first instance, you were not able to solve, or you find that this point I should retain, this is something which I could not gather from the chapter, something or the other you want to, some special point which you feel. So those questions, first of all, you should select those questions. Out of 40 questions, I'm telling you, you will be able to select only 15, 16. You will be able to shortlist 15, 16 questions. So 40 questions are shortlisted into 15. Then out of those 15 questions, whatever tricky points are there, you highlight those points in the question itself. And if possible, try to mark their treatment. This can happen in any other computational subjects also, where you are asked computational problems. This approach you can follow there also. You write their treatment in 2-3 lines, so that whenever you see that point, whenever you see the treatment which is mentioned, which you have written in your own words, you are able to remember that yes, this is the point, this is what I have to do in this case. Okay, the particular, suppose some adjustment is there, some particular item is there in suppose valuation of excisable goods is there, some item is there, and you know that if this is the case, I have to include it, and otherwise I have to exclude it. So this you can mention there itself. It will become a short summary of the practice manual itself. You need not revise all the questions again and again. And day before examination, when you are revising, this thing will help you at that time. क्योंकि उस टाइम पे आपके पास इतना टाइम नहीं होता कि आप हर एक क्वेश्चन दोबारा देखो, और वो करना भी नहीं चाहिए, otherwise you will not be able to complete your syllabus. At that time, you have to see only those questions which you have shortlisted, and in those questions also only that point which you have highlighted. You have written the treatment also if possible. Otherwise, you can see the answer, but that will save a lot of your time and that will help you in solving the computational problems. Okay, so after this first round of study, now the entire syllabus has to be revised twice before examination. Try to revise it 2 times. Definitely you will gain an edge over the subject.
Perfection.
You will gain perfection, yeah, very well said. And in fact, time taken in each consecutive revision will be lesser. So time उतना ज़्यादा आपको लगेगा नहीं, जितना आप सोच रहे हो कि इतनी revision so possible नहीं है, तो बड़ी idealistic situation.
We have this is paper 2 groups. So you have to of course plan, make a plan for every subject. But it is ideal that if possible, try to revise twice.
क्योंकि ये प्रॉब्लम आती है कि हमारे पास सिर्फ एक सब्जेक्ट नहीं है, हमारे पास बहुत सारे सब्जेक्ट्स हैं, हमें सब पढ़ने हैं. बट यू दैट इज वेयर द प्लानिंग पॉइंट कम्स. प्लान आपको इस तरीके से करना है कि आप सब कुछ उसी टाइमलाइन में कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, और फर्स्ट रिविजन के जब आप फर्स्ट रिविजन कर रहे हैं, एक बार आपने पूरा प्रैक्टिस मैनुअल सॉल्व कर लिया, फर्स्ट रिविजन के टाइम पे ट्राई टू वर्क आउट द प्रैक्टिस मैनुअल वंस अगेन. But this again depends upon the availability of time. Otherwise, one time you have to do practice manual religiously and honestly.
I think based on this, you are going to revise your syllabus twice, and after completion of your syllabus and revision of everything, what you will the next step that you must be aware. You have to assess yourself. How you will self-assess preparation. It's a correspondence course. There are will not be any kind of test for you, but you have to adapt a self-assessment strategies to assess yourself. For that, what you can do, you can solve the past year question papers with the help of the suggested answers. But of course, it's a regularly updated subject, keeps on changing. So you have to update and amend that question paper of the past attempt according to the Finance Act relevant for the particular examination. And for the institute also come up with the mock test papers, which are posted on the institute website within the on the institute website, and you can also go to the branches or the regional offices to attempt these mock test papers. And if it is not possible for you to go there, then you can download it from the institute website. Now, when you download it, don't start directly reading the question paper. Try to make an examination type of environment. That is, take a 3 hours time and 15 times for reading that paper and attempt that paper. Then match your solutions with the solution given to the that mock test papers and evaluate your preparation for the examination. Further, when you do this exercise, then you can do the RTP. Before this, there are two ways you can do it, because in RTP also there are certain notifications and amendments which are brought by the notification circulars are covered. So you should read those notifications circulars before attempt the mock test papers also. So RTP is a best tool for self-assessment. In that, there are certain questions it contains. What you do, first attempt those questions in the same manner with the full working notes, with this in a well presented manner. Then check those answers with the solutions given at the end of these questions. Don't directly move to the question, then to the solution, then to the answer. Question, then to the solution. Try to solve each and every question, and match with the solution given in the RTP. In this manner, you can self-assess the preparation thing for both, I think, direct taxes and income tax, as well as for the indirect taxes.
In fact, students wait for mock test papers to be held. And the most important difference between this mock test paper and revision test paper is that under mock test paper, you are attempting it in examination-like conditions. So you are getting a complete idea of time management, how to present your answers properly, everything you are getting. Students actually wait for mock test papers. They go to the center, they attempt it, they get it evaluated. So they get to know their weaknesses, their shortcomings also quite well. Revision test paper, they have amendment-based questions also. Many questions which you have not, means you will get more questions for practice also, and it is also a way of self-assessing your preparation. But it is not, the time management is not there, but you will get new questions to practice them. So both the things are very useful for the students.
Now, what should be the strategy for revising the course? The strategy for revising the course, whole course. In this case, I will tell you that the supplementary study paper. I think you in up to this label, it is assumed that you are being prepared with the 3 rounds of studies. Just what you have to do, you have to revise this course whole. So in that case, you have the supplementary study paper. You should go through that supplementary study paper fully, the amendments, because all the amendments are covered at one place. Then secondly, you have your summaries. If you prepared your summary, it's very good. If you don't have the summary, then what you can do, there are key points given in the practice manual. Then you can revise your key points given in the practice manual. And it's not possible for you to revise or to attempt all the practical questions which are given there in the practice manual. So as it is said, that what you do, you find out the tricky issues and the tricky points. You marked and highlighted those issues. Then you can revise those issues and those tricky points for revising whole subject, right?
In fact, this revision is important for the time when your exam is there next day before examination, because that one preparatory leave which you get, it is not sufficient for, it is not enough for you to revise everything in that. So that is what Aparna is trying to tell you, that how you can do that revision within such a short span of time. You can do your summaries, your supplementary study paper, your practice manual. That is what she is trying to bring out, that you can revise everything day before examination also. This is the most important problem which students face, that they say syllabus is so vast, we are not able to revise it. We had done everything, but when when the exam day came, we were not able to revise everything, so we were not able to recall. This is the most common problem faced by the students. So these her tips are going to help you in that actually.
So in this manner you can revise, or what you can do, now you are aware that which topic is most vast and which topic is more, seems to be very complicated or difficult to you. For example, in income tax paper, suppose you are going to revise this paper, what you can do, you can go to directly to the total income, computation of total income and the tax liability of a person. In this chapter, if you are able to compute the total liability, total income of a person, then it is damn sure that you are aware with the other provision, beforehand provision, like income from other 5 heads of income, the clubbing provisions, the set off and carry forward provisions, the deductions and things. So you are aware of all these provisions. So what you can do, you can directly move to the computation problem. If you are finding something difficult, you are not come to know that yeah, we are lagging in the particular topic, then what you can do, you can move to that topic and revise that topic thoroughly and understand the provision again. Then you can, in this manner, I think you can plan. These are the strategy for revising the course for both paper, both parts.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes students ask us what is the important topic. In fact, this is the next question which generally comes. Important topic, most favorite question of all the students. If we get to know this, what we will get, they don't, whether they feel that they will get everything. You will just tell them the important topics. So now we are going to tell you the important topics. So as far as the paper taxation is concerned, I would say everything is important. You have to do each and everything with equal weightage. There is nothing called selective study in a professional examination like chartered accountancy course. You have to do each and everything. Only comprehensive study can lead to you success. Shortcuts can never lead to success. You need to read and study each and everything in detail. There is nothing called important topics in this paper. You have to do comprehensive study. Selective study cannot fetch you success. So read and study each and every topic. But yes, when it comes to focusing on certain topics, there are certain topics on which you can focus more. Focusing more means you find that yes, these topics are relevant for many things. Computational problems are asked on these topics. Amendment-based questions can also be there. There's a recent amendment in that particular topic. Then some theory-based or some application-based question can also be there, provision-based question. So those topics you have to take care of. For example, in indirect taxes, part 2 indirect taxes, I would say, in case of the service tax, in case you have to compute the value of taxable service, what all you should do. First thing you will see that whether it is you will check whether it is a service or not. So definition of service should be very clear to you. Now when I say definition of service, it means each and every clause should be on your tips, all exclusions, all inclusions, it has to be thoroughly done. You just don't have to read it, you have to retain it also, that what all items are included, what all activities are excluded from the purview of service. Once an activity is a service, you have to see whether it is not, whether it is covered in negative list of services. So negative list of services, all 17 entries have to be done thoroughly. Each and every entry again, all inclusion, exclusion, everything needs to be done. Then there could be a possibility that yes, it is not covered in negative list of services. It is chargeable to service tax, but it is exempted by mega exemption notification. So mega exemption notification is also important. In fact, before mega exemption notification comes into picture, point of taxation comes into picture. That yes, whether service tax is payable in this particular period or not. So point of taxation needs to be determined. So again, that chapter is also very important. Then for determining value, sometimes you need to apply the valuation rules also, otherwise section 67 is very relevant. Then mega exemption notification tells you that whether the service is exempt or not. So in case that service is exempt under any of the entries of the mega exemption notification, then also you will exclude that item. After that, you will come to the value of taxable service. So see, for determining value of taxable service, so many concepts are required and all of them are equally important. So if I tell you exemption is important, negative list is not important, so that will not serve your purpose. In fact, it is a way of deceiving you. So then comes the next thing is that abatement. Whether that service is eligible for any abatement, that also you should know. You should know the reverse charge provisions also. You will say that what is the use of reverse charge under value or service tax liability. Reverse charge is a different thing. No. Reverse charge is equally important because you should know that whether on that particular service provider is liable to pay service tax or service receiver, because you have to determine the service tax liability of either of them. So when service provider's liability you are determining and that service is liable, that service is under reverse charge, maybe full reverse charge, then service provider's liability gets extinguished. So he does not have to pay service tax in that case. That will be deposited by the service receiver. So that also you should know, because in that case you will not include it in the service provider's liability. So this way we can see that all other chapters, every chapter has equal importance, and this is the sequence you have to follow while solving a valuation question. As regards the excise, I would say central excise, if you see the study material, so excise, customs, CST and VAT. In these four laws, we have basically covered the substantive provisions. Especially under CST, customs and central excise, the procedural laws are not relevant for the examination. Under central excise and customs, the procedural laws have been given in the study material. A bird's eye view of the procedural laws is given. But that is only for your reference, for your information and understanding, but that is not relevant for the examination. So that is, since everything is not covered of pertaining to central excise law or customs law, it is all the more important for you to clearly make out that what is relevant for the examination or what is there in your syllabus. Everything, entire central excise act or customs act is not there. You have to see what is covered in the study material that is relevant. For example, under excise and customs both, the classification rules are not covered. Classification, only an overall scheme of classification has been explained, but classification rules, they are not covered. Similarly, under valuation, an overall idea, overall scheme of valuation is there. You have to determine value of excisable goods. Customs valuation is also required of imported goods and export goods. But import or export, the valuation rules are not covered for imported goods and export goods. So these are certain things you should know before going for the subject. These are things you should, because you should definitely know what you don't have to study. Why to waste time in something which is not there for relevant for your examination? First of all, you should keep aside those things. Then you will get with the handful of things which you have to do, and you will find that yes, you were doing a lot of extra things earlier, which you should clearly find out that yes, this is not relevant. Similarly, under VAT laws, the state VAT laws are not relevant, and that is not covered in the study material also. Under CST also, the procedural laws are not covered. To the extent they have been covered in the study material, that is relevant for your examination. So these are the topics which you should have special focus on.
Similarly, in case of, I think, income tax, everything is important. You don't have any option for selective study. You have to read and understand each and every topic thoroughly. For example, like I already told you that while computing a total income of a person and the tax liability of him, of an individual, what you require, you must be aware for the residential status, what is the residence, because it's the taxability of an income is dependent on the residential status of a person. If it is a resident, then his global income are taxable. If he is not a resident, then you have to see the other concepts like if the income is accrue or deemed to accrue, received, or where it is received in case of non-resident. So everything you have to understand in a step-by-step manner. You cannot skip anything, because for at the end, for achieving a clarity or a understanding of the end topic, there is a link of each topics. So for the 5 heads of income, question can be asked on anything. There is no I think there is no pattern which is followed by the institute. They ask you question for anything, anywhere in the syllabus, right? But now there is a question how to revise the whole curriculum day before examination. Here, since I am telling you here what is the important topics, suppose in case of some students, you find some topic very difficult and you are not able to understand that topic easily. So don't do that topic day before the examination. Don't focus don't do try to understand that topic, because it will demotivate you. Day before the examination, what is required? That revise the whole curriculum which you have already been dealt with it earlier. So first, the supplementary study paper is most important. Revise the whole amendments. In supplementary study paper, we give the highlights of amendments at one place at the initial pages of the supplementary, which will also help you to revise the whole amendments. Then, while after completing this, you move to the summaries which you have prepared for the this in this paper. And in case of practice manual, also it is not possible for you to go through each and every topic. So what we have already told you that you have to highlight the tricky or crucial points in the practice manual question itself. So try to revise those tricky and crucial points day before the examination. Here, day before the examination, don't take any tension before going to the examination. Take a deep breath and relax in a relaxed form. Since I think it is assumed that you have prepared or revised your syllabus two times and one time whole study, so you are perfect in your paper. And take a good sleep. Take a healthy diet before the examination. This is very much important. Other than the revising your whole syllabus, if it is not possible to revise your whole syllabus, then also I think you will be able to score well in this paper. Further, here one more thing, that there are certain limits being prescribed, tax rates, which are very much important. What happened? We are aware with the provisions, but we are confused with at the end of the day, we are confused what is the exact limit of that. Since every wording have its own significance. If suppose there is in section 194I relating to TDS on rent, does not exceed 1,80,000. If does not exceed, if the rental limit is 1,80,000, no TDS will be applicable. If it exceeds 1,80,000, then rate will be applicable. TDS has to be deducted, right? So those kinds of limit you should revise before the examination, so that there will be no confusion that it is in excess of it or exactly this amount. And revise the rate, what rate the TDS has to be deducted. In case of income tax, also tax liability computation, there is a slab rate. Though what is the exact limit, basic exemption limit. So try to revise all these rates, the threshold limits which are prescribed in the provision. So they are crucial things which you should revise before the examination.
Let us move to some live queries now. Vishal Surana is asking, what are the changes in November 16, as I had already appeared in May 16 and I know I am failing. So what I want to know about changes. First of all, Vishal, I would like to say that don't be so negative. Don't be so disheartened. Sometimes things so happen that you are not expecting something, but you get passed. So it can so happen. But anyhow, it's always good that you start studying earlier. Even if you pass, then also there is no harm in start studying early. This might help you in your other things also. So for changes in November 16, what you should do is you should refer part 1, statutory updates. You will get the amendments. In fact, in that, the amendments which were there in May 16 RTP. Because in November 16 RTP, we give complete 1-year amendments. So that is relevant for you. So you should refer part 1, statutory updates of the revision test paper. And anyhow, you go through this session, you will get to know many tips for presentation of the paper also. Then for preparation related queries, preparation related guidance also we have provided. Try to either do your plan, try to either do them. Definitely you will make a difference. But we'll wish you a success in this examination itself, so you need not appear again.
Yeah. Of course, for May 16 or November 16, Finance Act 2015 is applicable. Same act is applicable. So there is no amendment. You should not be bothered about the amendments which have been brought by the Finance Act 2016. They are not relevant for you. So same study material, same practice manual is applicable. The thing is, the revisionary test paper for November 16, you should refer. In that, the notification from 1st May 2015 to 30th April 2016 are covered, which are not covered in the study material or the supplementary study paper. So you should go through that RTP for the amendments and the other changes. applicable for November 16
Because
examination.
many a times, Aparna, we have seen that students get confused with Finance Act 2016. They are more concerned about Finance Act 2016 rather than the amendments which are relevant for them, whether it is applicable or not.
In case of tax paper, Finance Act is most relevant. Of course, 6 months before prior to your examination, 6-month amendments are relevant. But in case of Finance Act, it is not applicable for you. But in case of Vishal, we will say all the best. Don't worry. I think you should wait for the result.
Yeah, don't be so negative. Yeah. Freehand. Okay. And before moving further, I would like to take the next question, next query which was asked, and it's actually a very important query. That how to present the paper in examination. Okay. Because we have already stressed on this point time and again that you have to present your paper properly. Presentation makes a difference. You have to catch the attention of the examiner. So how can you do that? Now, when you are attempting a paper, when you start writing a paper, first thing you should do is that you first attempt the question, answer to which you know the best. Okay. Why we are saying this? Because it creates an impression on the examiner. When the first question which is there in your answer sheet, you have written a very good answer to that particular question, it creates an impression that yes, this is the intelligent student, he has worked hard, he knows the subject. So this impression, because first impression is the last impression. So that can happen in this case. So in order to have this edge over the other students, you should first of all write the answer which you know the best.
Then your confidence also boosts up.
Yeah.
When you have attempted that paper, you are aware that we will score these marks, definitely. Then you move to the another question. So definitely it will help you to attempt that.
It will help you in rest of the paper also.
Yeah.
And you should write very legible handwriting. It should not be, though you don't try to beautify the paper, it should be a legible handwriting. The examiner should be able to understand. He should not misunderstand what you are trying to say. So try to write a legible handwriting, but keep the pace also side by side. Your paper should not be late because of beautifying the paper. We don't intend to say that you need to beautify it. You only need to maintain a legible handwriting. In fact, when in examination we are not able to beautify the paper, or we are not able to maintain a very legible handwriting, then what you should do is that you should underline the important points, because that will catch the attention of the examiner. The examiner, between you and your examiner, there is no way of communicating. So what you can do is you can underline the important points. Any definition you are writing, put it in a box so that it catches the attention of the examiner. Examiner को पता है कि आप उसको ये बताना चाह रहे हो कि this is something important which I am writing. I know this provision. So this is the way of communicating with your examiner. This is the way of standing out of the crowd. That you have attempted your paper well. Presentation का एक बहुत बड़ा ये rule है कि आप हर चीज को you have to catch the attention. तो underline जितना आप करेंगे, जितना ज़्यादा box में डालेंगे चीजों को, उतना ज़्यादा it will catch the attention of your examiner and you will definitely score good.
It is not possible for the examiner to go through each and every line of your answer. So if you highlight your important things, then he will at a eye view, he will come to know, yeah, it's the relevant point and that student has written it. So it will definitely give you good marks in that thing.
क्योंकि एग्जामिनर के पास इतना टाइम नहीं होता कि वो आपका हर एक पॉइंट बिल्कुल प्रॉपर्ली रिलीजियसली पढ़ पाए, तो यू हैव टू कैच हिज अटेंशन. इसीलिए ये अंडरलाइनिंग वाला जो पॉइंट है बताया जाता है. नेक्स्ट इज दैट इन केस यू हैव अ डाउट इन अ क्वेश्चन में आपको लग रहा है, फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे सर्विस टैक्स के क्वेश्चन में अगर हम देखें कि एसएसपी एग्जम्पशन आपको क्वेश्चन में नहीं दिया हुआ, सो बोथ द assumptions stand on equal footing. You can take that SSC is eligible for SSP exemption. You can also take that SSC is not eligible. Or it is not given in the question whether the receipts which are given, they are inclusive of service tax or exclusive. And from the information given in the question, you can assume either way. Both the assumptions are standing on equal footing. अब ऐसे में स्टूडेंट्स बहुत टाइम इस चक्कर में वेस्ट कर देते हैं कि यार किस तरीके से स्टार्ट करूं क्वेश्चन, मुझे एक्सक्लूसिव लेना चाहिए या इंक्लूसिव, or I should take SSP exemption, I should not take SSP exemption, which way I should solve the question. That takes too much of your time. What you should do in that case is you should clearly state one of the assumptions and you should start solving the question. आपको पता है दोनों में से कोई भी assumption हो सकती है, इनफैक्ट बहुत सारी assumptions हो सकती हैं इस तरीके से. We'll take, if time permits, we'll take some computational problem and we'll explain you that how actually you have to do it, how actually this problem comes and what you have to do in that case. But कोई भी question में आपको कहीं भी किसी भी point पे you get stuck, you don't find a solution कि यार इसमें ये question में this information is missing.
Yeah, information.
Particularly in that case, तो आप उस question में assumption लेके उस question को आगे solve कर सकते हैं. Okay? And in computational problems particularly, whenever you are treating any item, deducting, adding, whatever it is, you need to support it with an explanatory note. Proper reasoning होनी चाहिए. If you know the relevant provisions of law. It should be supported with relevant provisions of law. If he's simply adding and subtracting, will not fetch you marks. That amounts to a guesswork also. Sometimes it can be considered as a guesswork. आप add subtract तो कुछ भी कर सकते हो, लेकिन आपको पता होना चाहिए कि आपने क्यों किया. Reasoning आपको पता होनी चाहिए. जैसे कि सर्विस टैक्स के केस में क्या होता है, कई बार students have made a particular item not liable to service tax, but they don't know the exact reason why they have done so. They get confused whether they have done so because it is not a service, or they have done it because it is a negative list item, or there could be another reason also that it is an exempt item. It is because it is there in mega exemption notification. So they have to mention the exact reason. That is very important. आपने उसको service tax नहीं उस पे charge किया, that is okay. But what was the reason for that? You have to mention the correct reason. This, in fact, this thing we have been communicated through the examiners also, that this is the general mistake which students commit, that they don't write the correct reason. Sometimes they interchange it, or they get confused, they write the wrong reason. It is a negative list item, they mention it is exempted by mega exemption notification. So that is definitely wrong, and you should not simply add or subtract, because that will amount to guesswork. That will definitely not give you full marks. That will, most of your marks will be lost in fact in that case. So you should try to substantiate it with the provisions of law.
Yeah, examiner को तो तभी पता चलेगा कि आपको रीजनिंग पता है. Otherwise, what you आप सिर्फ प्लस माइनस करके आ गए, आप रेट कंप्यूट करके आपने सर्विस टैक्स निकाल दिया, इनकम टैक्स लायबिलिटी निकाल दी, तो उससे पता ही नहीं चलेगा कि यू आर अवेयर विद द प्रोविजन इटसेल्फ. क्या प्रोविजन है, क्यों आपने ये किया, उसके अलग से मार्क्स भी एलोकेट होते हैं रीजनिंग के. सिंपली आपने मैथमेटिकल सॉल्यूशन से यहाँ पे काम नहीं चलेगा. इट्स अ टैक्स लॉस पेपर, प्रोविजन बेस्ड पेपर. So you have to support your answer with the based on that provision of the law, right? Working notes and the notes, explanatory notes. There is a difference with the working notes and explanatory notes. Working notes where you show the working, like in case of computation problem, computation of total income. There are 5 heads of income. If you are going to compute the whole every head of income in the main solution itself, it will be a very long solution. अगर यहाँ पे कोई आपने मिस्टेक भी कर दी, तो इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल फॉर यू टू करेक्ट द मिस्टेक इन द सेम मेन सॉल्यूशन. So what you do, you try to make come out with that particular head of income by way of working. Show the computation of that head of income by way of working. Suppose income from salaries, then you have to go to compute the income from salary as prescribed in therein under that head. The income from house property, there are certain deductions which are available. In case of salaries, also perquisites value, allowances. If you are going to compute there in the main solution, it will become very lengthy. So try to make those kinds of computation, show those computation by way of working notes. Leave that space and write blank. Leave that space, and when you compute your income under that head, then write that computation to the main solution. So with that working notes, what are notes? Notes, for example, in case of plant and machinery, you compute the depreciation, but what is relevant, that put to use matters a lot. Suppose it is put to use for more than 1 to 2 days, then it will be full rate of depreciation will be eligible. But it is put to use for less than this, then it is not eligible for full rate of depreciation which is prescribed in. So you have to, if that information is missing in the paper, then you have to make an assumption that it is assumed that the asset is put to use for less than 182 days, so the rate is being 50% of the prescribed rate. You have to give in both ways the answer is possible, but you have to prescribe by way of note that we are solving the question based on this assumption. So try to present your answers with the working notes as well as with the notes, which are very much relevant for the taxation paper.
And you should read the instructions also, which is given in the paper question, the answer sheet. You will be finding, in fact, in admit card also certain instructions are given to you. If it is mentioned that you have to use a certain color of pen, blue or black, whichever it is. So you have to follow that instruction. Read those instructions carefully before going to the examination hall. You should read the instructions which are given in the admit card. If some instructions are there on the answer sheet that you have to start each new question from a different page, different subpart needs to be started from a different page. That also, in case whatever be the instruction, you need to follow that instruction. Then you need to tick all the questions which you have attempted, because choice is there. So whatever questions you have attempted, you need to tick them on the front page of the answer sheet. All these things you should keep in mind. then all these subparts should be of a particular question should be attempted at one place.
This is very important, which we come to know from examiners' comment that the students do not write all the parts at one place in that particular question. They keep on writing one part at one place and the other part at another place. So you will lose marks in that case. It is not possible for the examiner to go to the again to the question and check what marks allocation is there for that part. So try. You should solve all the parts at one place in that way. If suppose you are not aware, you are not familiar with the provision, it is very difficult for you to answer that. Leave the space.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time on answering the question which you are not aware of it. Leave that space and solve the rest of the paper. When you complete your all other part of the paper, then you come back there and try to it's yeah, you can do guesswork also if you are not aware of that. If you are aware, then try to recapitulate your provision. It's well and good and present in the best manner.
You can write any answer based on your logical reasoning.
Yeah.
So that is not advisable. We always advise you to go through the provision and write the answer accordingly. But leaving the answer is also not correct for as far as the marks are concerned, as far as fetching the marks are concerned. And moreover, if you attempt the questions at different places of the same questions subparts, if you attempt at different places, it might be left for evaluation, or sometimes while doing the totaling this question, your marks for that particular question might be left. So you will be only at the loss. So that is why we are prescribing that you should attempt all the subparts of a particular question at one place. So this feedback we have got from examiners. This is very important feedback which students also should keep in mind. Okay. And any other point?
Yeah, don't. Yeah, of course. One thing I would like to add that don't try to solve each and every question, because there are certain alternatives that you have to attempt only 6 questions. So because starting 5-6 questions will be evaluated. At the end of that question will not be evaluated. So don't make you fool that you will fetch good marks if you attempt all the papers. You will get marks only in the starting questions.
They will be evaluated sequentially. So first, suppose out of 7 you have to attempt any 6 questions and you attempt all 7 questions, then you will get marks only for first 6 questions. Earlier it used to be so that best 6 used to be awarded marks, but now this has been changed. This scheme has been changed. So you will be awarded marks for first 6 questions. So definitely the 7th question which you are attempting, it will take your time also, your efforts also. You will not get marks for that question. So it's better you attempt these 6 questions which you know the best. Maybe possible that one of the questions out of 6 questions was not your best answer, and 7th answer which you have written, which was not evaluated, that was your good answer. So you should pick and choose the questions which you answer to which you know the best. 6 questions. In fact, how to manage time in exam is also very important. That is a very crucial point. You get 15 minutes before examination, before getting the answer sheet, you get with the question paper 15 minutes. Now this 15 minutes is your planning time. Okay, you don't get the answer sheet, you don't have the headache of writing anything, nothing. So in this 15 minutes, you should utilize these 15 minutes to the best. As soon as you get the question paper, you start reading the question paper. But reading the question paper does not mean that you have to read each and every question thoroughly. Just have a glance of all the questions and try to select the questions which you are going to attempt in the choice. You know, out of 7 you have to attempt 6. One question's choice is there in every paper. So you choose the questions which you are going to attempt in that particular choice. One question which you are going to leave, you select that question then and there itself. Don't try to go through each and every line of the question paper, otherwise you will not be able to do that process. But you will get a fair idea that yes, this is the question which I don't know at all, or this is the question which I should leave in the choice. So leave that question, then you will be knowing that yes, these are the questions which we will be attempting. Out of those questions, the first question, earlier also we have told you that first question should be the question your best answer should be the first. So try to zero down or try to select that particular answer that yes, this is my best answer, I will write it first. That has also been done. Next thing. Next, you have to allocate time for each particular question. That is the estimated time in which you will solve each and every question. So that estimated time also you have allocated for all the questions. You should keep, while allocating this time, you should keep some time for revision also. Try to keep some time for revision, though maybe possible. It might be so that in some of the papers you will not be able to revise, but while planning, while estimating time, you keep some time for revision and you keep estimated time for each of the questions. Now, as soon as you get the paper, you will be very much sure of the sequence in which you will be attempting the paper. You know what you have to write. So your thinking time, your whole thinking, whole planning has been done in those 15 minutes, and now what you are left is doing the paper. So as soon as you get the answer sheet, you know this is the first answer I have to write that answer. You know within how much time I have to write it. Suppose you are exceeding too much your time limit. Okay, so then it is always advisable, don't stick to a particular question. Don't try to ensure that no, I am going to write this question the best. Maybe my all other questions are left. No, this should not be your approach. You have to write, you have to do justice with each and every question. All questions, whatever time you have allocated for them, you have to give that time to those questions. So if you are too much exceeding your time limit, leave that question then and there itself. As Aparna has already told you that you leave some space for that particular question, and then you move to the next question. Okay. And after completing the whole paper, when you get the time, you have time to think also. You have some other provision, some other alternative you are thinking, anything which you want to do to that particular question, you can attempt that question there, but don't exceed too much your time limit, because you know, attempting 6 average answers, then attempting 4 good or best answers. Definitely when you attempt 6 average answers, you will fetch more marks, you will get more marks. Attempt the whole paper. Try to attempt the whole paper. Some questions you might not be knowing, but try to solve them on your logical reasoning. This can happen in your real life also. Sometimes you don't know the provision, but you try to apply your mind to that particular situation. So that can also be there. But it's always advisable to write the answer on the basis of provisions of law. You should know, but there is also a limitation to everybody's retention. Maybe possibly you don't know any question, answer to any question, and that is there in your selection because that was the best answer which you know. So in any subpart which you don't know, try to solve it on the basis of your logical reasoning, but try to attempt all the questions. So this is something which will help you in managing time in the examination, and you will be able, definitely you will be able to complete your whole paper if you try to adhere time in each question, rather than attempting 3 questions in 1.5 or 2 hours or 1.5 hours, and after that rest of the questions you are speeding up and you are not able to do justice with those questions. So try to allocate your time beforehand and then start solving the question.
Yeah, this is the strategy you should follow. It is a very good strategy that you should not focus only on 2 or 3 best answers. You should try to attempt all the questions.
Don't try to leave any question. Try to attempt all the questions. In fact, one student has asked this Vishal Surana. He has asked a query on NDS, but since it's a taxation session, we will not be able to apprise you with the NDS applicability. You may ask this query in accounts session. And Sunil Agarwal has asked, is reverse charge applicable to a company if company is a small service provider? First of all, it's a technical query, although this is not the forum because this will take time for other students. In fact, we want to tell you a lot of things, other things also, but just to tell you in short that reverse charge is not, you have not elaborated the complete facts for this query. Which service you are talking about? Reverse charge is there in so many services. And reverse charge is generally reverse charge is not based on the whether the provider is a small service provider or not. So you have to go to the relevant notification, and then you can see that what is going to be the answer. This is notification number 30/2012. You should refer. You will get you see the which service you are providing, and then with respect to that provision you can know. Otherwise, it is true. That is other way around. If we see the small service provider exemption is not available for a service provider who is eligible or who has to pay service tax under reverse charge provisions. So if I am a service receiver, and I am liable to pay service tax because reverse charge provisions are applicable on me, then I will not be eligible for small service providers exemption. So reverse is true. Maybe that you want to ask this question only because your question is not very clear. But if I am a small service provider, then I will, if I am a service receiver and I am paying service tax under reverse charge, then I will not get the SSP exemption. Now let us move to PPTs. We'll take a computational problem and we'll elaborate that what are the points you need to keep in mind while solving a computational problem. The focus is not on the answer to that particular problem. The focus is on the points which you need to generally keep in mind while solving any particular computational problem. Let us move to PPTs. So these questions have already been answered. How to improve performance in the examination. How to get good marks? This we have already discussed in detail, so hope you are clear with these questions. How to manage time in exams? That also we have done. Now, points to be borne in mind while attempting a computational problem. This is a past examination question which we have taken for as an example. D and companies engaged in the sale of space for advertisements in different medias. It furnishes the following information. The information is given on the next page for the quarter ending 31st December 2015. And you are required to compute the service tax liability. Rate is also given to you. You have to compute, first of all, you need to see the period for which you are computing it. Okay. And see, in this question, this was what I was telling you while covering the presentation part, that you should know that you need to know that whether the receipts are inclusive of service tax or exclusive. Had this part was not given in this question, and from the question itself you were not able to make out that whether it is an exclusive or inclusive receipts. So it's always better to take an assumption instead of being in doldrums that whether I should take exclusive, inclusive. You have taken inclusive, but you are still very dicey that I should have done it by exclusive. Why to take a chance? You should write it in assumption that yes, I have assumed this way and I am solving it this way. This will definitely save you. So in this question, it has been given that receipts are exclusive or amounts are exclusive of service tax. Service tax has been charged separately. So this is in this question you cannot take assumption. This has already been given to you. Now these are the various amounts which have been received. Sale of space for advertisement in ZTV, then various websites, newspaper, and multiplexes. And one additional information which is given in this question is that D and company also assist its clients in preparation of advertisement for which it earned rupees 8,50,000 during the said quarter. Now this is all the information pertaining to the this question. Now this is something which we need to focus. Invoices were issued within 30 days of the completion of service, and the payment was received in the month of January 2016. So we have received the payment in the next month, the month following the quarter. This service tax computation in this question has to be done for October to December quarter, and it has been written that payment was received in January. So, okay, payment has been received, but when were invoices issued? Invoices were issued within 30 days of completion of service. Okay, now these amounts which we have received, so we will assume that the invoice for this service has been provided. Sale of space for advertisement in ZTV, in website, newspaper, multiplexes, all these 4 services, they have been provided or completed in the quarter of October to December. Okay, this is a very obvious, or you can say most logical assumption to assume, because you cannot assume that it was provided prior or after that, otherwise you will not be able to solve the question. So we, in this case, we'll take the logical assumption that this service was completed, these 4 services were completed in October to December quarter. Okay. Now when services were completed in October to December and within 30 days the invoices have been issued, so here the point of taxation comes into picture. Okay. Point of taxation, what does it say? Is that as per point of taxation, when the invoices have been issued within 30 days of completion of service, the point of taxation is date of issuance of invoice or date of payment of service, date of receipt of payment. So in this case, the payment has been received in the next month, but the invoice has been issued in this quarter itself. Okay. So these are the 2 events which you have to consider. That's what I told you, that point of taxation is also very important for computing service tax liability. Like in this question, the point of taxation has come into picture, so you should know the point of taxation rules also. So either the earlier of these 2 events, so this is October to December quarter is the earlier event, and here you will tax all the receipts. So October to December, this is the point of taxation. You will tax these receipts in the December quarter, or the last quarter of the calendar year. Okay. Now, how will you present this answer? While presenting this answer, you have to keep in mind that now Swachh Bharat Cess has also come. So for Swachh Bharat Cess, you have to show it separately, but it's not like EC and HSEC. One difference between Swachh Bharat Cess or SBC and EC and HSEC is the value on which this cess will be computed. This is computed, the Swachh Bharat cess is computed on value of taxable service, whereas EC and HSEC used to compute on the service tax liability. Service tax amount On the service tax amount you use to compute EC and HSEC at the rate of 2 and 1% respectively, but Swachh Bharat is different. It is computed on the value of taxable service. So it effectively makes the rate of service tax as 14.5%, but it's always advisable that you show it separately in any of the questions. So that is why I have taken this question to show you the presentation part, that you take all the receipts and you after showing the value of taxable service, you show the service tax amount and Swachh Bharat separately, and then after that adding these two you will get the service tax paid. Then one thing you need to note here is that after every item we have written note. What these notes are, which Aparna and me have already discussed at length with you, that you need to support your treatment of each of your items with the provisions of law. So these notes are actually referring to those provisions. In each of these notes we have elaborated that why this item has been so taken. See, these are the notes. In first note, we have elaborated the point of taxation. Everything which you are doing in the question, you have to state in the notes that why you have taken that particular treatment. Point of taxation we have given in note 1, that why we have taxed these items or why we have taken the point of taxation as October to December quarter. Then next is the negative list item. Now this is because of the negative list. Now see, that is what I wish to tell you earlier also, that you need to state the reason that why we have excluded or included a particular item in this particular question. It was there in the negative list, then it will not be taxable. It was excluded from the purview of negative list, then it would be liable to service tax. But the reason of negative list is very important. Now here one important point to note here is that in case you don't remember this particular entry of the negative list, this entry G or clause G of the negative list, it's absolutely fine. Don't write it in the examination. This is only because we give our answers, we give elaborate answers. But in examination, if you are not able to recall that, yes, which clause it was, it's absolutely fine. You just mention that this particular item was covered in negative list. That is why it is not liable to chargeable to service tax. It is exempted by mega exemption notification. It is not a service. That will suffice. You can write the section numbers of this. Section 66D will suffice. Writing clause G is not required. And any section, any notification, it is not expected at IPC level. Only major sections might be expected from you, but that also you should write only when you are very sure about it. Okay. Then while doing the this computational problems, what other points you need to keep in mind is that when you saw the items, you saw the receipts, you need to check. You need to have a complete checklist. Whether it is a service, okay, it is a service. Then whether it is covered in negative list, if it is covered not chargeable to service tax, if it is covered chargeable, then whether subsequently it is exempted by mega exemption notification or not. If all those items are taxable or whatever items are taxable, you have got the value of taxable service. After that, you have to check the abatement, whether that service is, any of the service is eligible for abatement. That service you have to charge at a different rate. You have to take into consideration the abatement also. Then next is the reverse charge provisions. The importance of reverse charge provisions we have already discussed in detail, that reverse charge provisions are also very important. So you need to elaborate all these points. You need to keep in mind all these points while solving a computational problem. One more important point you need to know is that, or you must be knowing also, that computational marking for computational problems is stepwise. So each step carries a marks. Even if you make a mistake in any of the steps and but subsequent steps are correct, you will get marks. You will lose marks only for a particular step which you have done wrong. So this is an important point which you should bear in mind while solving any computational problem. And the place from where, or you can say the publication from where you can practice these computational problems, you already know, that is practice manual, then revision test papers, and then the mock test papers. In all these places you will get the computational problems and you can attempt or you can practice them. You get to know the presentation also.
Now we will take you through the income tax portion, the computation problem, that is computation of total income and the tax payable liability. It is an integrated topic which integrate all the previous topics while for computing the total income of a person, individual. Yeah. See, there are certain steps involved. Here I am going to take you through the steps which are involved for computation of a total income and the tax liability of that person. First step is what? The step one is the determination of residential status. The residential status of a person has to be determined to ascertain which income is to be included in the computing the total income. Residential status plays a significant role. Since residential status, the taxability of the income of taxability of certain income is based on its residential status of a person. The residential status, broadly, I am just telling you that it is divided into two parts, that is resident and non-resident. And resident is further classified into resident and ordinary resident, and resident but not ordinary resident. Right? In case of an individual, the stay of that individual in India during the previous year is very much important to determine the residential stay. The residential stay of person is determined based on the period of a stay of that individual during that previous year. Right? For further classification, resident and ordinary resident, resident but not ordinary resident, and not. If the person, there are certain basic condition, additional condition. It is assumed that you are aware of these conditions for determination of residential. This is the first step. When you are aware with that step, then you will move to the second step. What is that? This is step. Exclusion of income not chargeable to tax. There are certain incomes which are fully exempt, and there are certain which are partially exempt. In case of fully exempt income, these income will not at all will come into the picture for computing the total income. They are exempt income. They will not be included. While in case of partially exempt income, for example, HRA, for example, house rent allowance, education allowance, there are certain prescribed limit and the manner. Accordingly, you have to compute what is the amount of that particular income is exempt and what the amount which is not exempt. So the non-exempt part has to be included. So in the income, you will first determine, and it will also depend on the head of income. If the income is fully exempt, for example, the agricultural income is fully exempt. So you are not bothered about whether you are not bothered about where it has to be go under which head of income. It is fully exempt income, so it has not to be included at all. While in case of HRA income, this you have to compute based on the provisions of income under the head salaries. You must be aware of section 1013A provision for computing the HRA exemption, right? So then you move to the head of income to determine the partial exempt income, that what part has to be included for computing the income of certain person. Then the third step, after knowing that this income is exempt and fully exempt income, then you include part, then to move to the third step. The third step in the case here for computing the total income is the computation of income under each head of income. Here, under the income tax, there are 5 heads of income, wherein whole income are classified. First is the income under the head salaries, that is based on the employer and employee relationship under the employment circumstances. If a person is employed, then the salary income, the allowances, the perquisites will have to be come under the head of salaries. And there are particular charging section under each head of income, which will tell you what will be included in the while computing that particular head of income. Then income from salaries, income from house property. Under income of house property, what income has to be included? The income which is has to be related to the house property income. There is a certain deduction under section 24, which provide you that the 30% of the annual value will be allowed as deduction. The interest in housing loan is also allowed as deduction for computing the income under that house property. So you must be aware of those deductions while computing that particular head of income. The third head of income is PGP. That is profits and gains from business of profession. If a person is engaged in a business of profession, then that income has to be computed by virtue of the provisions which are contained under section 28 to 44 ADA something. Then beyond that also, and then you will compute under that head of income the income which is related to that business income. This is the third classification of income. Then the capital gain income. Generally, the only revenue nature of income is include taxable under the Income Tax Act, but there's certain exception, that is capital gain income. Here the capital asset, the capital gain which is arising, the income which is in the form of capital gain is taxable under the head capital gain. Then there is a residuary head which is income from other sources, the income which will not fall within the prescribed 4 heads of income, which will come to the residuary head under income from other sources. So the income which is not fall under the any of the 4 heads of income, that is income from salaries, income from house property, PGBP, and capital gains, then that income will come under the head of income from other sources. When you compute the income under each head of income, then there is a provision of clubbing of income of spouse or minor child. What happens? Income tax is levied on a slab system on total income. That is, in case of individuals, that slab system is provided, which is a tax system which is a progressive. That means as the income increases, the tax liability increases, the rate of taxes increases. It's a progressive system of taxation, wherein what individuals do, they will divert their income to the person who falls in the low tax bracket. In that way, they can save that tax. To curb those tax practices, to curb the tax avoidance strategies, this clubbing provision have been provide for clubbing of the income in the hands of the transferor. In the hands of the transferor. Now, you have to club the income in the respective head of income. After that, you will move to the fifth step, that is set off and carry forward and set off of losses. What happened? There are certain losses also may occur due to provision. For example, deductions are there. In case of self-occupied property, the annual value is nil. While there is a deduction in respect of income, interest paid for housing loan, repayment of housing loan. So that deduction, by way of that deduction, there is a loss under the head house property. So there are provision that in case of loss occurred in that head, it can be set off under other head of income. Inter-head adjustment is there, intra-head adjustment is there. Suppose it is not possible to set off the current year losses, then there are provision that you can carry forward such loss and set off the such loss in the subsequent years. There is a provision. Then you apply that set off and carry forward provision. After applying the clubbing provision and set off of carry forward provision, what you do, you will aggregate the income under each head of income, under each head. Then the total of that aggregate of income is known as gross total income. Then you compute it, which is called gross total income. From that gross total income, there are certain deductions provided from the gross total income, or from section 80C to 80U. There are deduction in respect of certain payments, in respect of certain receipts, in respect of investment, deductions are provided. So there is a difference between deduction and exemption. In case of exemption, if the income is fully exempt, that income will not at all be included in the total income. While in case of deductions, once you have to include that income while computing the gross total income, then from that income you will be eligible for deduction, right? So then you have to apply the provisions of chapter 6A for computing the deductions from gross total income. You deduct that deductions from gross total income to arrive at the figure of total income. Total income is very essential since the tax liability is based on this total income part. When you know that it is your total income, then what you do, you must be aware of the rates of taxes which are applicable. In case of individual, the basic exemption limit is like 2,50,000. If the person is a senior citizen, the limit is 3 lakhs, and the senior citizen is 5 lakhs. So there is a basic exemption limit. And the rate of taxes also vary according to the variation in the income. So you will compute the tax liability according to the rates of income prescribed. And then after computation of these rates, there are surcharge. Surcharge, it's at present is 12%. If the income exceeds 1 crore, then surcharge rate is 12% in case of individual. There is a provision of rebate. This rebate under section 87A for assessment is 16.7. The rebate is 2,000 up to an income of 5 lakh only. So that you have to surcharge, you have to add on the tax liability. On the tax liability computed by applying the rates of taxes, and from that tax liability you will deduct the rebate which is available under section 87A. Rebate will be will have to be deducted from the total tax liability plus a surcharge. Then this rebate will not be, of course, it will not be eligible because this rebate is up to 5 lakh only. If the total income does not exceed 5 lakh, then only the rebate is available. So there is no question of surcharge in that case. Surcharge will be applicable only at the rate of 12% only if the total income exceeds the 1 crore limit. So if the rebate is applicable, then you have to deduct that rebate from the tax liability. If the income exceeds, then you have to move to the surcharge provision. Then there is the rebate, no rebate will be applicable to that person if the income exceeds 1 crore. Then when you compute the surcharge, then there is a education cess and as such EC, that is secondary and higher education cess. This is 1% and this is 2%. On the tax liability, include this surcharge, you have to compute this 2% education cess and 1%. After adding this, you will come to the total tax liability of that individual for the particular previous year. From that amount, what you have to do? There is a provision of advance tax and there is a provision of tax deduction at source. Certain tax has to be deducted from source itself, that you had already paid certain taxes. For example, in case of salaries, you already employer has deducted taxes from the salaries while paying your the amount of salary. So what you have to do? You have to deduct those amounts. You already paid that tax, then you are not going to pay again that tax. So you have to deduct this advance tax payment, if any, and the tax deducted at source from the tax liability computed above. See here, don't confuse whether education cess or SSAG will be applicable after this step. There is a proper step that you have to compute this first on this tax liability, then move to this step. Then the net amount will come to the net tax payable or refundable in the case of an individual. This is also the chart, same thing, that first you determine the residential status, then you classify the income into the 5 heads of income: salaries, income from house property, PGBP, capital gains, income from other sources. Then you apply, of course, the provisions of clubbing provisions, and set off and carry forward of set off or carry forward and set off of losses. Then you aggregate these 5 heads of income to arrive at the figure of gross total income. From this gross total income, you will have to deduct the deductions available under Chapter 6A from the gross total to arrive at the figure of total income for the computation of tax liability. Here, I will show you with the help of this example that how you will present your computation problem. In this, I have a full-fledged example of computation of total income in case of Miss Purvi. She is of the age of 58. She is a chartered accountant and she maintains her accounts on cash basis system. See the words. You have to keep in mind these words have significance in there. Cash basis of accounting. So all the expenditure based on the cash system, whatever you are paying only, you will be make the entry for that expenditure in your books of accounts. Only when you receive the income, then you only credit it. So if you're following mercantile system of account, when the income or expenditure accrued or incurred, you will make a provision for it. But in case of cash system, you will make the debit or credit in your books of accounts only on the time of payment of that expenditure. So here you will see that salary of 2 staff. It's a normal thing. It's allowable, wholly allowable. If you have a glance of this income and expenditure account, that there is a stipend to article assistant, okay, incentive to article assistant, office rent, printing and stationery, meeting, seminar, this is okay, up to purchase of car here. This seems to a capital expenditure. It is a capital expenditure. Capital expenditure under the income tax are not allowable from PGBP. What do you have to do? You have to compute the depreciation on this car. Directly whole expenditure will not be allowed. The depreciation on this car has to be deducted. Then traveling expenses, then municipal taxes paid in respect of house property. Here we are seeing this profit and loss account from the angle of computing the income under the head profits and gains from business of profession, right? So municipal tax on house property. This seems to be an expenditure related to a house property, which will go to the income under that house property. There are certain incomes here. Dividend, it's an exempt income, of course. It will not come to the PGBP head. It is an exempt income itself. Income from UTI, it's also an exempt income. Then it comes to honorarium received from various institutions for valuation of answer paper. It is an income from other sources. It cannot be included while computing the PGBP head income. Rent received from residential flat let out. It is an income from house property. So it has to go to the income from house property head. Let's see, there are certain other information also related to this that you have to keep in mind while solving this solution. Allowable rate of depreciation is 15%. So you have to compute that rate of depreciation on the motor car, which is given, the value is given in the income and expenditure account. Then the other information is value of benefits received from clients during the course of profession. It is a business income, profession income. So it will go to the PGBP head only. This is not included above in the income and expenditure account, so we have to make an adjustment for this income. Incentive represent amount paid to article assistance for passing IPC section 80%. It is it pertains to a professional income. It's relating to the profession itself. Under section 37 by way of general provision, it is allowable as deduction. So this is allowable. It is already debited, so we don't have to make any adjustment. But of course, you have to make a note of it. You have to give a note to it that it is an allowable expenditure by virtue of provision of section 37. Then repairs and maintenance of car include 2000 for the period of 1/10/2015 and 39. See here, it is relating to the period from 1/10/2015 to 2016. The previous year, relevant previous year for AY 16-17 is 15-16, which comes to an end on 31/3/2015. So it is going beyond to this time limit. But however, since she is following cash basis system, all of the expenditure will be allowable. We don't have to make any adjustment regarding to this expenditure. Of course, in this regard also you have to give a note clarifying that yeah, since she is following cash basis system, it is allowable expenditure. Then salary include 30,000 to a computer specialist in cash. It is paid in cash. There is a restriction by virtue of section 40A(3) that a payment cannot exceed 20,000. Expenditure will be disallowed if the payment exceeds 20,000 if it is made in cash, right? So this whole of the expenditure will be disallowed in this case since it is made in cash. We have, right? Then total traveling expense incurred in foreign tour. Here you have to make an assumption since it is not given that this foreign tour for what she made a foreign tour. If it is for the purpose of business and profession, then it is an allowable expenditure. But if she made a foreign tour in respect of other purpose, then it is not allowable expenditure. Or it is also was within the RBI norms. So here you have to make an assumption by way of note that it is an allowable expenditure since it is assumed that it is for the purpose of business and profession. Then medical insurance premium on health of dependent brother and major son dependent on her amount to 5,000 and 10,000 respectively paid in cash. Here the medical insurance premium is paid on the health of a dependent brother. It is not at all related to the PGBP head of income. It is related to the chapter 6 deduction. She is paying a medical insurance premium in respect of dependent brother. Dependent brother आता है उसकी definition में family की नहीं. Dependent brother does not fall in the definition of family. And in case of major son dependent, whether the son is dependent or not dependent, it falls within the definition of family. So it should be allowed as a deduction. But the answer is no. Why? Because there is a restriction that the medical insurance premium must be paid by way of mode other than cash. Here she made a payment by way of cash. So no deduction she will get under section 83. Like there is another information, she invested an amount of 10,000 in NSC. For this, she will get a deduction under section 80C. Now let's see how we will proceed to compute her income. First, there are three heads of income coming into picture in this question: that income from house property, the PGBP, then income from other sources. Then you compute the gross total. What you should do that in case of house property, this is requires a computational thing. So what you do, you write show the computation thing by the working note and give a number to that working note, so that here the examiner will also refer to that working note itself for understanding that how you compute, how you work out the how you compute this amount of income under that house property. So you should give numbering to the working note also.
In fact, you need to pay attention to the basic presentation which she is telling to you. This is what we were highlighting earlier also, that working notes should not form part of the main table, computation table. You should separately show them so that if they your answer is, your main computation table is not very much elongated. So this is the way of presenting it.
Now PGBP also, there's a long computation thing, so you will also show this computation by way of working note 2, then income from other working note 3, clearly number it, then you come to the gross total income, then you compute the deductions. There also two adjustments are there, so you are showing it by way of working note only, then you come to the total income. This is a total income thing. So I will show you how you will present your working notes. This is income from house property. Here gross annual value, directly you cannot only sum up the amounts, you have to show in respect to which I think this amount is related to. For example, this is gross annual value. Since no information is given relating to fair rent, standard rent, so what you assume that the whole rent is treated as a gross annual value. So from that, municipal taxes paid is allowable as deduction. It is paid amount 3,000. Here you will compute in this manner the income from house property. In the same manner, you will move to the PGBP head of income. Here, first you take the net profit as per the income and expenditure account. It is given in the expenditure account itself. If you see here the net profit is 9,28,224. You will take this figure to compute the PGBP head income. Right? Then you will make the adjustment by way of adding certain expenditure which are debited but not allowable. The income which are not credited in the income and expenditure account, you have to add back. You have to deduct the income credited but not taxable under this head, the other expenditure which are allowable but not debited in the head of income. Right? So these expenditure you have to make an make an adjustment while computing the PGBP head of income. In the same manner, for income from other sources, you will show that this is an exempt income. 1034 under it is exempt income clearly. One thing that quoting a wrong section will not be good for you. So you should not quote a wrong section. If you are not clear with the section, don't quote a wrong section. Of course, it is you have a good impression on the mind of examination if you have clear with the section. So it will fetch you good marks, but it does not carry any weightage to the section. So it's not required that you will get so much of number of marks while writing this section.
Here it is given only for your reference. We have given in this solution to make the answer complete. But in the examination, you will write it only when you are 100% sure about it, because writing a section definitely gives an edge to your answer. But writing a wrong section number, wrong notification number definitely gives you a definitely tends you to lose the marks. So never write a wrong section number unless you are very sure about it.
And yeah, in this manner you will compute income from other sources, and similarly deduction under the chapter 6. Then you take this figure to the main solution. In this manner, you will compute whole solution total income, and like 83,820 is the total income. Then you compute the tax liability in the manner provided. For in case of individual, the basic exemption limit is 2,50,000. Up to this limit, there is no tax. It's nil. Up to 2,50,000 to 5,00,000, it's 10%. 10% of what? Between 2,50,000 is 25,000. Then above this 5,00,000, if the income exceeds 5,00,000, the rate of tax is 20%. So 5,00,000 to 9,83,000, the rate will be 20%. You have to compute in this manner. In that tax liability, what you have to do, since your income exceeds the 5,00,000 limit, so she will not be eligible for rebate under section 87A. Then on this amount, you have to compute the education cess, that is at the rate of 2%. The secondary and higher education cess at the rate of 1%. Then you compute in this manner the total tax liability. Yeah, here I have not shown you that you have to round it off. You have to further write it off to the nearest of 10. Right, so it will come to 125,420 is the total tax liability after rounding off of this figure. Further, in case of any further query.
In fact, you can note one point here is that under income tax, EC and HSCC is still there, but under service tax and excise, it has already gone. So you have to compute SBC there. SBC has come in lieu of that. And now, in fact, we are moving to end of the session. Due to paucity of time, we will not be able to take other queries. But generally, I would like to take some of the points that SBC is applicable for November 2016 examination, and KKC, that is Krishi Kalyan Cess, that is not applicable. So let us see if any live queries have come up, because we are moving to end of the session. So no live queries, all have been resolved. So I hope you found this session useful. In case you have any other queries relating to your preparation, you may write to us at our email IDs will be shown to you. Shefali.jain@icai.in, and for direct taxes you may write to Aparna at aparna.chauhan@icai.in. So
Thanks, students, for patient hearing, and all the best for your examination.
all the best.